Hello and welcome to Four Little Bears. Today I'm going to give you a new free PDF that's actually going to be a page number 7 that'll go along with the Mega Stash Buster 2. So what I did here was I just broke down the dimensions of everything so you could see what you need to build out each of the layouts. So I showed you there what my scrap bin looks like. It's getting really full and I need to use it up. So I'm going to use these layouts to make some cards based on what I already have in my scraps. So all I do for this is, now that I've got my measurements, I go to my scraps and I'm just using the corner of my cutting mat to measure out the strips that I have and to decide which card I could possibly use that for, to decide which layout I could use it for. And I'm not too much caring right now what sorts of scraps I'm using. I'm just kind of pulling what I've got, and I'll pull it all together later once I see what I have. This is a great idea to just bust up your scraps for all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be for the Mega Stash Buster 2. Just pull out your scraps from time to time and see what sizes you have. Sometimes I'll even try to sort mine by sizes. So while I'm going through here, kind of deciding what I've got, I'll kind of go through how I have my scrap bin set up. So on my scrap bin, I have an accordion style file folder, and I have them separated by solids, patterns, neutrals, fall, winter, things like that. I also have a section for brights, for my bright patterns that I like to use for birthdays, things like that, and for more neutral tones. And then on top of that, I also have one section for white strips, a section for black strips, a section for holiday strips, and one for just random strips. Although I do have extra spaces, I feel like I do want to split up my strips into at least brights and neutrals. And basically, when I'm going through and determining, for me, anything that is 2 inches or under is a strip. And I typically don't keep things that are smaller than the branding strips, so about a ½ inch. And again, that's just what works for me. Do whatever works best for you. So in this video today, I'm going to be using all scraps. I'm not going to make anything new because that is the name of the game. I need to bust through my scrap pile. So any sentiment that I use, any embellishment that I use are things that I already have. They might be stickers, they might be leftovers from other things, or things that I have previously stamped. So kind of a little background, when I stamp something that I really love, and I'll show you a little bit more next in my next Scrap Buster video, I tend to stamp things multiple times. First off, just to make sure that the stamp on my final project is going to be a good impression. Sometimes stamps don't always leave the best impression, so I'll kind of stamp off a couple times. But if those stamp offs are good, I'll save those and use them later. And sometimes I do it on purpose too. If it's just an image that I use a lot or I like a lot, I'll go ahead and just stamp that a bunch of times while I have it out. Maybe I might even color it while it's out, and then I'll have it for when I need it. So that now that my desk is a pile of messy scraps, I'll go through here and I will separate these into the bags like I was before. So the scraps I want to use for card 6, I'll put in the card 6 bag, so forth, so on and so forth. way too, you don't have to do all of your separating and your creating in the same day. I did in this situation, but you definitely don't have to. Go ahead and separate it, put it in the bag, put it in a bag together, and come back to it later. In fact, keep adding to it until you're ready to make a bunch. Alright, so starting out with card number 1, you'll need a piece of paper that is 3 by 1.5, one that is 4 by 1 3/4, and one that's 4 by 3. And these are all suggestions. They can be bigger, longer, shorter, whatever you have in your stash pile that you want to use up, and whatever you think looks nice together. And actually these pieces that I have on the bottom, the larger pieces, that's actually a piece of the packaging. It's very shiny paper. You can kind of see it when I'm moving it around. But it was so pretty, I couldn't waste it. It was just the piece of packaging that shows all of the different papers that are in the pack. And somehow when they're all together, they're so pretty. I can't waste those pages. So I'll just cut it down to pieces that I like and put it in my scrap pile for times like this when I can just use it as a little scrap. I didn't want to get the trimmer out again, so I'm just trimming it to the right size using the other piece. None of this should be difficult. It should be really fun. This should be a really fun process, just kind of throwing stuff together and seeing what works, and playing. And these sentiment strips are just some sentiment strips that I had bought. I cannot remember. I believe I got them from scrapbook.com. I don't remember what brand they are. And then I just used some dots to decorate. Moving on to card number 2. Again with this one, I did give you dimensions on each of these triangles, but the easiest way to do this is still to use 3 pieces that are 5 1/4 by 4. And I measured mine wrong, so mine are a little off from that, but so mine are a 1/2 inch off on either side because I didn't measure that properly. But it doesn't matter because we're just having fun. So for these cards, I broke my rule of not making anything new. I still didn't get any stamps out, mostly because I don't have any stamps of leprechauns. But somehow these papers reminded me so much of St. Patty's Day. I'm not sure why. Maybe because of all the greens and blues. So for this one, once I get it all pasted down, and I'm using Fairly Arts glue, by the way. I just put it into that little squeeze bottle because it's easier on my hands. So I broke my rule and I got out a white scrap. At least it wasn't a full piece of paper, it was a white scrap. And drew myself a little gnome leprechaun. Now, I'm not the best artist in the world, so I did do this in pencil first, but I'll kind of skip through that a little bit because I realize you can't actually see the pencil on the paper. So I'll skip through that here in a minute and show you the inking of it. So here I'll ink him up so you can actually see him. And I do make a mistake where I put his arms coming out of the body. I put it, for some reason, I put his arms coming out of the hat. That's not where arms go. But, you know, he's still cute. So, yep. All a gnome is a big beard, a giant nose, a couple little feet, and a floppy hat. And you have a gnome. I also tried my hand out at some hand lettering and hated it, so I don't use that. So here I am using Ohuhu markers. They're my favorite set of markers to color everything in. I believe I'm going to use 46 and 59. I think that is 46. But just a couple green colors. One's more of a, well, they're both kind of in the minty family, and one's just a little darker than the other. And for the nose, I think I used 104. And then I'll just cut him out really quick. And because I want the edges to look nice, I'll just use a little calligraphy pen that I got from the dollar store. I like to use cheap pens for this kind of thing just because I feel like it's not the best on that felt nib, so I don't want to waste a good pen. Just plop him right down in the middle. I didn't put a sentiment on this one. I feel like not all cards need a sentiment. So for card number 3, you'll need a piece that's 1 5/8 by 2 7/8 to cut 3 of those, and 3 that are 1 5/8 by 1. And again, those measurements are just suggestions. Use what you've got. So here I'll just kind of determine which pieces I can cut smaller, which pieces I can cut larger. I figure I can cut all of them smaller, so I'll figure out which ones I can cut larger. And then I will bring my trimmer in here and trim these down to be the sizes that I need them. And again, I'm not incredibly concerned right now with which pieces go together. I'm just kind of getting the pieces that I need, and then I'll figure out which ones I want to go together. So remember to cut 2 7/8 you're gonna cut 1/8 shy of the 3 mark. So just line up with the 3 and scooch it over. And to cut 1 5/8, it's just 1/8 more than 1 1/2. So you'll just move it to 1 1/2 and scooch it over 1/8. And that's how you can easily find those 1/8 measurements. Alright, so now that I got them all cut up, I'll kind of decide now which pieces I want to go with which ones. Guys, please excuse my voice. I've been sick for a really long time. Trying my best here. Luckily, I can edit out all the coughing. So I'm just playing here, figuring out which pieces I like to go together, and that's all it is. It's just playing. And again, when you're putting this together, just put it together in a brickwork pattern. For this one, I used the original layout. That's set up in the Mega Stash Buster. And you'll see for the next one, I changed it up a little bit, sheerly because I put the pieces down in the wrong spot, so I had to kind of improvise. But yeah, all this one is a brick pattern layout, so if you have other sizes that you need to take care of, just lay them out sort of like bricks. So basically what I tried to make sure was that none of the seams lined directly up with each other. So this is the one that I didn't line up right. You'll see that I've got the pink one in the very middle, and then I just cut down that 1-inch piece to be 1/2 inch each so that it would fit on either side, because I completely messed that up. And again, that cute little fox birthday present, I had that done, and they even had it all the way colored and everything, so all I did was cut him out and flap him down. If I hadn't colored him, I probably would have chosen different colors. But I think this is a happy accident because I like how the brighter colors kind of pop out from the more pastel background. I don't think I would have chosen that on my own, and I do like the way that turned out. So for this one, I'm just using stickers that I had laying around. Alright, moving on to card number 4. So for this one, it's the angled easel. So you'll need 2 pieces that are 4 by 5 1/4, and one that is 2 by 4. And because these are not if these were double-sided papers, you could just flip the paper around, but mine are not, so I'll end up making 2 cards. love with this paper. It is so thin and not great paper, but I love the books. I actually think that came out of a dollar store paper pack. So to line up your score, I'll just take my stylus, line it up with 3.5, pull it down. Then I'll put my card base on that angle into the 3.5, and that's gonna let me score my fold. However, you don't need to do that. You could just hold it at the angle, depending on if your paper likes to crack or not. Mine cracks sometimes, that's why I like to score it. Then you just need to glue down your pieces and decorate however you like. So for the inside stopper pieces, I am just using stickers to decorate, and then what are these? I always forget what they're called. Chipboard. Chipboard ephemera to be the actual stopper piece. And remember, for the front of the card, for the topper, just make sure that you're only gluing the half on the angle. And for these, I'm just using the pre-done toppers that come with the Echo Park paper pad. And again, the chipboard pieces. For the Celebrate sentiment, I just thought it looked nicer as a square, so I just kind of squared that off. And again, only glued down the half. For card 5, you're going to need complementary papers. You're going to need one that's your background piece, 4 by 5 1/4. You're going to need one that's 5 1/4 by 1/2, one that's 4 by 1/2, and one that's 1 by 4. And you'll see for mine, I did not have enough of this blue, but it worked out. I ended up cutting the longer piece in half because the bow, and then placing it on either side, because the bow will cover up a little bit that you're lacking if you don't have exact. So I'm just going to freehand this shape. I do have a template. I don't know why, but why does this remind me of goggles, the shape? So I'm just going to freehand my little goggle shape, or maybe those, like, the eye mask for the tanning booths. That's what this reminds me of. So I'm just going to do my little half of a goggle shape here. And then you just fold it over and glue it. And then for the little middle piece, I didn't even worry about cutting an extra piece. I just used this little piece of scrap here, because you really just need something to go around the center of that bow. It doesn't have to be elaborate. And this time, because my hearts, I didn't want them going sideways, so I'll turn the whole card sideways. And I'll make this a landscape card. So I'm just going to put that bow right in the middle. Still up a little higher, but centered. Alright, so here you can see I'm lining up the sides with the edges, and I'm leaving a little space right by the crossbar. My bow will cover that up, no problem. I believe the piece I had was only about 4, and I don't remember if it was exactly 5. It may have been somewhere near 5, but it wasn't exactly 5 1/4. For card 6, you'll need a piece that's 2 by 5 1/4. 2 pieces actually that are 2 by 5 1/4, and one that is at least 4 by 1 1/2-ish. But that inside stopper piece, I ended up making it the same length as the card because I had it. And again, to make this straight easel card base, all you'll need to do is fold over 1/2 of your regular card base. Just fold it in half, and that gives you the little easel spot. And I am in love with this one. It came with, I believe it came with the same paper pack that I used the packaging for. And again, I'll just use little chipboard pieces for my stoppers. Alright, for the final card, card number 7, you'll need, you could use one type of paper or 2, 1 by 4 by 4, and 1 4 by 1. So I'm going to use this little book sheet again. I love these books so much. And as much as I love that blue paper, it is not the easiest paper to work with in the world. So to decorate this one, I actually had this little piggy left over from one of the Craft Roulette episodes that I did recently. And I kind of loved the idea of him being with the books, like he's coming out of one of the books, a character out of the books. So I didn't even color him, I left him as is. Also, there was just so much color behind him. It almost made him stand out more to be in black and white. So yep, I just cut that little piggy out like he is leaning over that border, and a cute little hello sentiment. Those pigs might be one of my favorite stamp sets. And here they all are. And it really took nothing. It was quite literally all scraps. The sentiments and everything was scraps. Well, except for my leprechaun. But I had to make the leprechaun. I just had to. I hope you really enjoyed this. Again, there will be a free PDF that will be a page 7 to the MSB2, the Mega Stash Buster 2. Give it a try, bust some scraps, and I will have more scrap busting tips coming. Y'all stay blessed, stay safe, and have a great week.